Hi everyone. This is episode 1 of the Knitting Equestrian Nomad. Welcome everyone. I'm glad to be here with you and I hope you enjoy this. Again, this is my first podcast. My name is Karina and I live in Northwest Washington State, north of Seattle, just about an hour south of the Canadian border. Today's a pretty nice day in April. It's sunny out. It's not necessarily warm. It's a little windy, but probably definitely better weather than other places in the country are getting where it's much colder. So anyway, welcome. Again, I live in Northwest Washington State, and I live with my partner, and we have 2 cats who are currently napping. I'm not sure if I can capture them, but let me give it a try here. So there is Herbert. Hi, Herbert. Hi, Herbert. And his litter mate. Let's see, up in the top bunk there, that is Harley. So, yes, in the middle of their naps. I also have 2 horses. I have 2 Mustangs that I adopted from the Bureau of Land Management program. Odin the Mustang, he is a gray gelding. He's 10 years old, and he is from the Cold Springs Herd Management Area in Oregon. He was gathered and gelded at age 6 in 2018, and then entered in a Mustang makeover program where I adopted him after he had about 100 days of training. He has been a wonderful horse. I've had him since 2018, and he's just very thoughtful, and we go riding on trails. We do some other riding a little bit around here. We don't have a big farm here, but I do have a round pen I can ride, and kind of a long driveway, and I can trailer him to local trails that are only a couple miles away. So that's really nice. And then I also have Braggy the Mustang, who is from the Warm Springs Herd Management Area in Oregon. How I acquired Braggy is that when I got Odin, I had an off-the-track thoroughbred who had a lot of issues. I think he was 15 when I got him, maybe a little bit younger than that, because I had him for a few years. But anyway, he had some soundness issues, so he wasn't really rideable, and he was really quite high-strung and had a lot of anxiety issues. I don't know his whole story. I did see some of his races from the past. But anyway, it was a hard life for him, and he did not adjust well to it, and I think it just affected him emotionally for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, he colicked and died in February of 2020, and then Odin was all alone, so I had to get another horse, and that's how I ended up with Braggy. Braggy was a 2-year-old Mustang at the time who had about 30 days of handling, gentling, so he learned some basic horse manners like how to wear a halter, how to lead, how to pick up his feet. When he arrived at my house, he was really frightened, so it even took about 2 or 3 days for him to let me touch him. So I just worked really slowly with him, and I still continue to do that. In fact, I had a lesson with him this morning here. My trainer came over to help me teach him a few things, and we are just doing some basic groundwork, handling, just trying to increase his confidence and help him have some good horse skills to get along in the human world here. Mostly they live out in the pasture and around the barn. I think they're pretty happy guys, so I don't have any major goals with them, just to enjoy them. So that's the horse part of my life, and I will definitely talk about them as time goes on. The knitting part of my life, I started knitting, I want to say it was about maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I started knitting, and it was a way for me to, actually, it's longer ago than that. It might have been 10, maybe 10 years. It was a way for me to connect with my grandmother in her old age. She lived until she was 98 and a half, and she used to knit quite a lot. But towards the end of her life, she wasn't able to communicate much or do very much, so knitting was a way for me to share something with her while sitting and talking with her. So anyway, sorry, this camera angle's a little weird. Here, let me adjust that a little bit. Again, this is my first podcast, so I'm expecting to make a lot of mistakes. But what I'd like to share is this is the first sweater that I knit. Sorry about that. So it's a very basic sweater, kind of a raglan design, probably top down. I don't really remember. This is an acrylic type yarn. I think it was a Lion's, kind of bulky weight. But anyway, super simple sweater. It was actually a really fast knit, and one that I actually wear fairly frequently when it's colder weather. I wear it to the office where I work during the week, and actually get a lot more compliments on this than I do some of my other hand knitted stuff. So I don't know whether it's it just looks handmade, so people ask me about it and they seem to like the colors and the fact that it's really warm and comfy looking. Is my guess. It's really kind of bulky and shapeless, but very roomy. So this is the first finished object I'm going to show you. I have lots more. Some I've given away and can't show you, but I will talk about them over time. So yeah, I'll introduce finished objects as time goes on. So what do I have on the needles? I will say right now that the normally knitting podcasts seem to have a finished objects, what's on the needles, and then acquisitions. I am hoping to not have very many acquisitions because it is my goal to knit down my stash. I have a couple of kind of plastic tubs of scraps that I have sorted and weighed and would like to work on that. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a gift. It's for my sister. So let me reach over here into a crinkly bag. And, another thing that a lot of knitting podcasts do is they talk about the bags that they keep their projects in. Well, I have to tell you, this bag is nothing special. It's just a plastic bag that I got probably from a yarn store. But anyway, this is a gift. It is for my sister. It is made out of acrylic yarn because she is allergic to wool, and both of these yarns are from my stash. And this is a moose hat, so hopefully you guessed that peach-colored shape correctly. So the pattern is it's free pattern. It's from Stitch and Bitch, and it is called Kevin McAllister's Moose Hat. So here is the pattern. I probably found it on Ravelry. So here it is. So you can see the moose here. Pattern's very simple. It was a relatively fast knit for me. I'm not a fast knitter, which it's fine. I know there's techniques to learn fast knitting, but I'm not really that interested. So the yarn is this Waterscape colorway by Red Heart. This yarn originally was for an Afghan that I made my stepdad many years ago. I crocheted this Afghan and bought way too much yarn. So this was the first sock I made. It does not have a mate. This is a simple tube sock in a kind of a ribbed pad. Looks like a 4x4 ribbing pattern. It just is a big tube and then decreases to the end. This would probably make a good slipper. I don't know, maybe someday I'll make a mate, or maybe I'll rip it out and do something else with it eventually. So the other color in that is this acrylic, probably also Red Heart, although I don't remember. I made my sister a sleeveless tank out of this. It was a simple ribbed pattern, and I gave that to her. Can't remember if it was last year. I'm thinking it was the year before. But anyway, I have this leftover yarn, so I've made that hat. So she will get that. Yeah, so I was hoping to give that to her for Christmas. She lives in Wisconsin, so this nice warm hat will be nice for her in the wintertime. It's the pattern calls you can make a liner for it that gets tucked up inside and kind of straightens out this rolled edge, but it's thick as it is because of the worsted weight yarn that I use, so it didn't really need a lining. Thought about adding a ribbing to the bottom of it, but really it's long enough, so it covers the ears. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. All right, so this, well, I guess that was another finished object. Excuse me. Let me get a drink here out of my mug. I think another popular thing on knitting podcasts is, the cup you use. I've had this cup for many years. It's called Campfire Girls, and I bought this cup at a street fair quite a few years ago. Currently, I'm drinking some very cold tea, but that's okay. I am an avid tea drinker. I like black tea, and then I like herbal tea in the afternoon. Also on my needles is this cowl project. This pattern is by Mina Phillip, who is the Knitting Expat podcast. So she's one of my inspirations for podcasting, and she's a designer, and this is, I think, a free pattern I got from her, and this is the Road Whipping Cowl. I'm using this this heavier worsted weight yarn this is the second color. I don't know if this is going to work out. It might not be the right project for this yarn, but I'm enjoying the pattern, and I'll find out if it is the right pattern for this yarn. The project bag, again, nothing special. I have one nice project bag that my mom made. No, actually, that's not true. I have two nice project bags. One my mom made me. My mom is a quilter. Here is this project bag. So she is handy with the sewing machine. I am not. The project in this bag is a brioche. Let me show you the inside. So it's kind of this nice polka dot fabric. The project in here is a brioche project. I am trying to teach myself brioche, but it's been, I think I picked a pattern that's too complicated, so it is resting while I work on other things. The project bag that this cowl, the Road Whipping Cowl, is in just a canvas bag. This actually has, when it's sunny out, this actually, oh yeah, you can kind of see the sun changes. When it's sunny out, it really changes into bright colors. There's just not enough coming through the windows here. But this, my dog, when she was a puppy, my dog lived until she was almost 15. I lost her in August of 2020, sadly. She had a really good, long life. But anyway, when she was a puppy, she chewed through the handle, so this just really reminds me of her. So that is the project bag for this Road Whipping Cowl. Also on my needles, in this bag, which is just a cloth purse I found at a store in, I think it was in northern Wisconsin, a trip that my mom and my sister and I took up to Lake Superior, and I found this bag. But it has turned into my sock bag, and I am knitting a pair of socks from Patten Croy yarn. This is just a plain gray. So here's the cuff, and the body of the sock has a pattern which is kind of hard to see. I can kind of see it. It's probably hard to see on camera. There's just, I don't know if I can, you might be able to see a little bit of pattern, but anyway, I'll show you the pattern is by Yarnspirations, and Nicole Weiner is the designer. And this is what the pattern looks like when you use self-striping yarn, which I have some self-striping yarn. I just wanted to practice with this particular pair of socks because I've had trouble with some socks before. You know, I knit one and it turns out one way, and then I knit it another and it's a little bit different. So just wanted to do a simple pattern that hopefully I won't lose track of. One thing I learned from this pattern is that Patent Croix yarn is a little bit heavier than regular fingering sock yarn, so that was interesting. That was an interesting lesson I learned. So, but yeah, these are going to be pretty thick socks with the size of needles. These are I don't think they might be 2.5 millimeters, but these are these flexible sock needles. I really enjoy these. I've used Magic Loop. I've used 4 DPNs, but I really like these. Okay, and then this other project bag. A friend of mine knit this, or I mean knit. She sewed this for me. A friend who's been very instrumental in teaching me how to knit, helping me along my journey. So horses, as I mentioned, is part of my theme here. So this is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter, and this is called Ghost Horses. So this is what is on my needles right now. I haven't decided if I'm going to do long sleeve or not. Caitlin Hunter is a designer from the Pacific Northwest out of Oregon, actually, and you know, I'm just not sure the practicality, at least for me, for a short-sleeved sweater, a colorwork sweater, because there's, you know, the double thickness of yarn. So I'm tempted to do long sleeves, but here is the progress that I have made on this. So yeah. I'm not quite to the horse part yet, so I'm still definitely working on the yoke. The yarn I am using is so here's the main color. This is a Cascade 220. This is a fingering weight yarn. So this is, it's kind of a warm, neutral color. It's not, I mean, maybe beige, but it seems like a little more pink than that. The colorway, I think it's just a number, not an actual, I don't think they name it. So it's color number 9591. So Cascade 220. The yarn is made in Peru. Cascade Yarns is out of Seattle. And then the second color is this Barocco 50% acrylic yarn. It has 43% wool, but it's got some sparkles in it. It's got lots of colors that I love. And it's called Millefiori Light Luxe. That is the label. And the color is 8844. So I bought this yarn in New Hampshire, where my partner's aunt and uncle live, and we visited last fall. So my aunt, well, it's his aunt really, my partner's aunt, but I call her my aunt as well. Aunt, I think is how you say it in the eastern part of the U.S. She used to work at a yarn store in Randall, New Hampshire, which is near, kind of near the White Mountains, like Mount Washington. So anyway, always try to make a stop there when we visit, and I tend to buy yarn. My acquisitions tend to come from places that I'm traveling. I tend not to buy yarn here locally unless I need it for something, even though we have some great yarn stores around here. So it's just, I think of buying yard as something that I do when I'm on vacation. So um, it's just a way for me to stick to my budget and not accumulate a giant stash of yarn. So anyway, that's what's on my needles. Those are my knitting bags. Some special, some not so special bags. Okay, and finally, I want to talk about podcasts that I'm inspired by. So I mentioned Mina Phillip, the knitting expat. She is currently in the UK, I believe. When I first started watching, she was in Dubai, I believe. It seems like her husband's work takes her all over the world, and I think she has also lived in New York. So, but I'm possibly back in the UK now, and I really enjoy her podcast. Another one I really enjoy is the first one I actually started watching was called Fruity Knitting, and this is filmed and produced by Andrea. It's a very professional podcast, wonderful videography. And it's made in Germany. She's based out of Germany, although I believe she's in Australia at the moment. At least the last episode was in Australia, visiting her family, as she is originally from Australia. So this podcast is in English, no subtitles. Yeah, it's wonderful. And one of the things I really like about it is just bringing the idea of sustainability to craft work. And she interviews shepherdesses, sheep farmers, wool producers, and talks about how people are doing this in a sustainable way, which I really appreciate. That is one of my values, and I've learned a lot. While I prefer to knit with locally sourced wool, again, I have a family member who is allergic to wool, so, and frankly, wool can be quite expensive. So, and I think some of these crafts ought to be accessible to everyone. So, and sometimes acrylic is where it's at. So, I will knit with anything that I have. And the other podcast that really inspired me is called Camabornia. It is based in Sweden. Sophia is the videographer in that one, and she speaks Swedish and it has English subtitles. So the location is absolutely wonderful, and I enjoy watching where she lives and where she enjoys her time, especially when she knits outdoors. I don't particularly like to knit outdoors, but I really love it when other people do that. So this is something I hope to bring to you each time, are the podcasts that inspire me. So, and one thing I will say about Camabornia, again, it's in Swedish. So I was inspired to use my Duolingo language app on my phone to start learning Swedish. So, just to bring this back to my horses, they both have Scandinavian names, Odin the Mustang and Bragi the Mustang, or Bragi, that might be another way to pronounce it. I have Scandinavian heritage, mostly Swedish, so this seemed like a logical connection for me to start learning the language, and Duolingo has helped me do that. It's a really fun way to learn a language, any language. That app has all kinds of languages on there. So that's all I have for you today. I can be found on Facebook. You can look just search for The Equestrian Nomad. That is my Facebook page where I share a lot of my horse photos, and maybe even a few videos here and there of riding and things that I do with them. Instagram is CM Eq Nomad. So that is CMEQNOMAD. So those are my initials, and then short for Equestrian Nomad, CM Eq Nomad. And then I also have a blog. I have kept a blog since I think I started my blog in 2003 and I have migrated it over to different platforms. Currently it's on WordPress and it is called, the website is equestriannomad.com. So again, equestriannomad.com. I'm not sure if I can figure out show notes yet, but if I get to that point, I'll put that information there. Oh, one thing I would like to point out, behind my shoulder here is a small painting. That painting was done by my sister. She is an artist, and not by, that's her hobby. She went to college and received a degree in art, but that is one of her paintings behind me, and I do have other work by her here in this house. But anyway, that is all I have, and I hope to see you next time. Happy knitting and happy horsing. Bye.